Hey everybody, welcome back to Snowby's Performance. Today we're going to go through another workout that I like to use to get ready for my squats. This is a workout that I do on non-squat days. This is more of me getting better mobility, getting better comfort. So as I work through my squat programming, I feel like I'm more active, I have more range of motion. The more motion you have, the more strength you're able to have. So as I get ready for snowboarding season, these are some of the things that I do at least once a week. My first exercise I'd like to do is what I call a knee sandwich. So I lay down on my side and I have a larger ball and a smaller ball. And I'll put the smaller ball on the bottom underneath my outside of my knee and the larger ball between two knees. And I can really tack down the tissue of the knee here. And as I press down, I can straighten out that bottom leg back and forth. And this is really gonna work that area just above the kneecap and that distal part of that quad muscle. And this is a spot where I get a lot of swelling in one of my knees. This helps to really loosen that area up, makes it feel like it's got some more freedom, there's more fluid moving through there, and this helps me just to feel better and know that I'm doing something that's good for my knees as I get ready for my squatting on a different day. I'll do this for 1 or 2 minutes on a side and then I'll switch sides. I'm always trying to find what's productive. If it loosens up quickly, I move along. If it feels like I need a little bit more time, I spend a little more time on that. So that's how we do the knee sandwich mobilization to get that tissue right around the top of the knee to loosen up. I want to get my hips loosened up. So I like to do what we call the world's greatest stretch. So I'm into this nice long lunge position here. I want my back leg straight best I can. Now you certainly might need to modify this to get started. But I'm trying to really bring my elbow down to the instep of my foot here. So as I loosen up here, I get that elbow down with that back leg straight, and I might play around here a little bit. I might want to lift that arm up and get some rotation in my stretch. I also like to think of my pelvis as like I'm drawing on the ground, and I can kind of rock it around into a circle in clockwise and counterclockwise directions. And that helps me really open up my hips, open up my groin here, get this full motion. And I'll spend 30 seconds to 60 seconds on one side, and then on the other side, maybe pressing that knee down to the ground and back, which is really kind of loosening up all that area inside my hips so that when I do squat, I'm ready to go nice and deep. So I'll do that on both sides. A little stability exercise. So I'm gonna go into a side plank. And you might just start with a simple side plank that you're lifting up and holding here from your knees. But what I like to do is I have the top leg straight and I like to hold this position. When you get to this position, even though I'm on my knee on the bottom leg, this really works those hips quite a bit, works the trunk stability also. So as I've built up over time, I now work on 20-second holds. I do this in 3 times on each side, and I'll alternate sides to continue to build that core stability. The next exercise I like to work on is a knee timing exercise. So I'll take my band that's anchored down, and it's about knee height, and I'll step through it, and I'll put it right behind my knee. And I want to put a good amount of tension on there. And what I'm working on is I'm trying to pull my knee back just straight without hyperextending and locking that knee. So I'm really just working on that timing of straight, holding it there for a couple seconds and relaxing. As I've gotten stronger at this, what I work on now is I do it in single leg, right? So I let go with the other foot, I pull that leg back to straight, and then just soften it a few inches and pull it back to straight. And I'll do this 15 to 20 times. And this will start to get tired in my leg and in my hip. Then I'll also turn around and do it in the other direction, where now the band is trying to pull my knee to that hyperextension, and I'm just not gonna let it, right? So I'm gonna let it go straight, but not locked, and straight, but not locked, and eventually getting into where I can do it on one foot, and controlling that knee throughout its whole motion. And this is how we work on that knee extension without locking that knee. And of course, I'll do that on both sides. I particularly work more on it on one side because that's the knee that I have a little trouble with. So that's a great exercise to work on the control over that knee. My next exercise is working on control over the hip. So in this single leg stance position with my hands on my hips, I'm gonna be balanced on one foot and I'm gonna slightly tip my body forward with my knee bent. And then from here, I'm gonna rotate and open up my hips and then rotate them back down to the ground. And if you're doing this correctly, and you're doing this well, you're gonna feel some of it into your calf, but you're gonna feel a lot of it into this hip here. So when I'm doing this, I'm not trying to just lift up the other leg, right? What I'm trying to do is rotate out of this and then rotate back down. We call this exercise a Tippy Twist, and it really helps to really stabilize that hip and work on that balance on a single leg. And I'll go through those about 15 repetitions. I'll do one set on each side because I'm using it really more as a priming activity to get my nervous system ready to stabilize on that hip. My next exercise that I'll do, I call a lateral touchdown. I started with a lower height than this. I'm gonna use the two 45-pound plates. That's what I built up to. And I also use a weight now. So at first I started with a single 45-pound plate and no weight, but I've progressed to where I use a taller height and I add some weight to make it a little bit more difficult. So I'm just gonna stand up there on one foot close to the edge. Let me get my foot in the right spot here. There we go. And all I'm doing is hinging and reaching that heel back for the ground and then back up. And what I want to try to do here is not let my knee buckle inward. This is my knee that I have challenges on, right? This is the one that does feel like it's going to buckle inward if I don't have really good control of it. So this is the one that I have to work on the most. On the left side, it's not as difficult. But you can see that that leg is really unstable, and that's the spot where I can just barely be successful. So I want to get to a challenge that I can do, but that it is challenging. If it was too easy, that's not valuable. If it's too difficult, that's not valuable either. So I want to find that sweet spot that we can work on that and control that knee as it moves. I'll do these for 10 repetitions, and I'll do 3 sets on each side. That does challenge me a little bit, right? It challenges my hip, it challenges my quad and my knee stability, it challenges my ankle and my balance. So I find that one to be really effective, and I look forward to building that one up to a higher height, to a heavier weight, because I know that one's gonna make a big difference working on that single leg stability. My next exercise that I'll go through is an airplane stretch. I'll generally do this holding on to something, but the idea is we get into the single leg position where we're bent forward. We can hold on to a countertop or to a wall or to a bench or a bar, and then we're just holding it and we're opening up, and that's gonna stretch inside that groin. And then I'm turn my hips back down, which is gonna stretch more into the hamstring. Again, as I open up, I feel it more into the inner thigh. As I rotate down, I feel it more into the hamstring. This is not a balance activity, so we can hold on. This is more of a stretching, a dynamic position activity to really work on that hamstring and that inner thigh. So feel free to hold on for that one and just rotate back and forth. I go through 8 repetitions. I do it twice on each side. My last one that I do in this little set is I use this device called a MOBO board. That's M-O-B-O. And it's a great device that I can use to work on some stability and learning to control my foot with rotation of my hip. So I will have a little bit of a light band anchored. Now certainly you might not have something like this available to you, but I just want to show you some of the ideas of other options of the way we can work on stabilizing and the concepts that we want to use. And you can see on this board, it tips a little bit. It's on a little bit of an axis that tilts. And what's really valuable is that the way the board is cut out is that you can see that the big toe would go on the board, but the little toes go through the hole of the board. So I don't get to use the little toes to help me stabilize. So at first I might just stand on there, my big toe on, my little toes off, and I might just practice stabilizing that board, and that might be a starting spot. But I've progressed to the point where I hold a light band in front of me and I try to rotate away from that band. So as I'm doing that, this grounded leg is relatively externally rotating. So as I do that, I'm gonna feel that into that butt muscle on that left side here. And this is how I'm just gonna work back and forth, controlling that ankle position, controlling that hip rotation. And I'll go through this 10 times on one side, I'll switch to the other side, and I'll do 2 sets on each side. And that is the end of that program that I like to use to give me a little bit more flexibility in my legs, a little bit more of some targeted stability, and then certainly some balance exercises, which is not only helping me with my squat program, but it's helping me with all my athletic activities, whether it's running, jumping, snowboarding, hiking, crossfitting, all the things that I like to do. So that's a little view of what we do to kind of work on some stability to improve our health and get